First case of severe bird flu is confirmed in the U.S. According to the CDC, a Louisiana patient was exposed to sick and dead birds. It's the first case of bird flu in the country linked to the exposure of backyard bird flocks. CDC officials say this shows the virus can sicken people other than those in the poultry and dairy industry.
Now, I know I've been focusing a lot of my attention on this drone invasion lately, but I don't want to overlook the fact that a state of emergency has been declared in California due to the bird flu. Now, if you're a longtime subscriber, you might remember about 8 or 9 months ago, I started ringing the alarm that there was a new strain of bird flu in America, supposedly, that had made the jump. You see, they call it the bird flu because at first it was believed that it basically mainly affected birds. And supposedly it did until it started mutating. And it started making the jump to other animals. Well, about 8 or 9 months ago, there were reports all across America, several different states were reporting a huge uptick in cows being affected by the bird flu. And then even a couple of people came down with the illness as well. Now, obviously, that's alarming because that's our food supply. I don't know about you all, but I'm not a vegetarian. I love steak. I love hamburgers. And, I feel like we're living in a day and age where they're constantly, and when I say they, you could assume whoever they is. I feel like they are constantly trying to mess with our food supply. They're putting all types of chemicals in our food. They're trying to discourage people from eating meat. They're trying to blame cow farts. Literally, they blame cow farts for global warming. They want us eating bugs and all that weird stuff. And we know that China and Bill Gates, they're buying up all the farmland. And the rest of the farmland, there's chemical spills all the time. People getting their land snatched from them. So it really looks like there's an effort to control the food supply, taint the food supply, whatever you want to call it. So, I was ringing the alarm about this 8 or 9 months ago, and here we are today. I was kind of surprised when they issued a state of emergency in California due to this disease. So, I don't want to say I'm caught off guard, but I wasn't necessarily expecting this. I expected that they were going to slowly roll it out, slowly get people scared about it, and then right around election time, they were going to fully roll it out, try to place restrictions, maybe a soft lockdown, maybe have people working from home and going to school from home again. I was expecting that they may try to pull that again around election time. Obviously, that didn't happen, so obviously I'm wrong. But now it's like, okay, we're taking a problem that we know for a fact has been going on for months, or at the very least, y'all were reporting that this was happening for months. And now, just as the next administration is taking over, all of a sudden, it's a state of emergency now? I mean, really think about it. I mean, for me, it feels weird because, like I said, I was doing research into this almost a year ago. And it's like now, right before the next administration takes over, now all of a sudden it's a panic. I mean, what has really changed here? Why do we need a state of emergency now? I guess would be my question. Has the situation gotten much worse than it was 8 or 9 months ago? Because for the most part, I haven't heard much about it. And I'm someone who actively looks into these type of things. And for the most part, they haven't been making much of a stir or a ruckus about this. They did about 8 or 9 months ago, and then they didn't really talk about it anymore. And now all of a sudden, now it's a state of emergency again. And now they're saying, we may see a state of emergency in Texas. I think Texas is going to be way more hesitant to issue a state of emergency as opposed to California. And California, they're desperately ready for another beer bug lockdown. This is what they thrive and live for. Gavin Newsom loves this stuff. I think Texas will be a little more resistant and hesitant when it comes to how they handle this situation. But I want to go ahead and roll this news clip really quickly. Let's get a feel for what they have to say, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Newscast tonight. Governor Gavin Newsom has now declared a state of emergency in California over the bird flu. The outbreak is nationwide, and Newsom says he will offer more statewide and local support. 17's Jenny Hudd joining us now in studio with a look at the cases here in Kern County. Jenny?
Local health officials tell me when it comes to this avian influenza A or H5N1, there's no reason for alarm as it's low risk to the general public.
What we're finding with bird flu, particularly in the state of California, is a lot of the exposures have happened, in sort of, we call them closed systems, so on dairy sites where we know the cows, have been infected.
The Kern County Public Health Department says to date there are 4 confirmed human cases, all mild, and 2 confirmed cases in poultry. According to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the dozen or so deceased Canada geese in Bakersfield tested positive for the virus too. There are 18 confirmed human cases of bird flu in Tulare, 1 case in Fresno, and fewer than 10 in Kings County.
We are continuing to monitor the situation, to respond, to suspect cases, to work with the state on, ongoing investigations and the ongoing protection of the health of the public. So far, most of the exposures, are in people who have known contact with sick animals.
According to the California Department of Public Health, there are 34 confirmed human cases of bird flu statewide, 33 of those as a result from exposure to dairy cows, and 1 case due to a cause unknown. To date, none of the cases in California have been a person-to-person spread, and there have been no human fatalities thus far in this nationwide outbreak.
We know with animals, it can be deadly. Cows have died, poultry have died. Wild birds have died. It's called a highly pathogenic avian influenza because it has a high mortality rate in birds.
Experts say, like with any virus, it's all about prevention, like wearing gloves when working with cattle.
Both respiratory protection as well as eye protection. There has been live virus found in raw milk, and so something like the milk splashing and things like that are really important.
They say those working with dairy cattle, poultry, and wild birds should be extra cautious. Those with pets exposed to wild birds or raw milk should be on high alert too. Experts also say bird flu symptoms are similar to the seasonal flu, but conjunctivitis or red eye is also common.
Things like respiratory symptoms, having a cough, sore throat, running a fever, it's influenza season, that we encourage people to get their seasonal flu shot.
And the state also says pasteurized milk and dairy products remain safe to consume as the pasteurization process inactivates the bird flu virus.
Now, when you hear or see the words state of emergency, it automatically makes you feel concerned. It automatically makes you feel like, okay, this is something we need to worry about. This is something that poses an immediate threat or could cause an immediate issue. This is an emergency. Something that we have to take seriously right now, not later. This is like #1 priority stuff. This should be taken seriously, right? So we have this state of emergency. Meanwhile, right now it seems as if they're kind of downplaying things. Just like with the mysterious drone sightings. They're downplaying the threat that this could pose to the public or the threat that this could pose to daily life. Now, that makes you feel more comfortable, right? State of emergency, it makes you worry that they're going to pull the same thing they pulled before with the lockdowns, shutting down the whole world. I don't want that. Majority of you all, I don't believe, want that. So when you hear a state of emergency because of an illness, it makes you worry. But then they downplay it, right? They downplay it and it makes you feel a little more comfortable. But I'm here to tell you, never get too comfortable when you're dealing with these type of people. When you're dealing with the powers that be, when you're dealing with the government, understand that they will downplay something until they don't want to downplay it anymore. Okay? The first strategy they always do is they come out and they downplay a problem. Okay? They don't want people panicking. They don't want people jumping to conclusions. They always downplay the issue first while they figure out what angle they're going to take. While they figure out, hey, how can this further this agenda or that agenda? They're figuring out their narrative right now. Now, their narrative may be, hey, nothing to see here, nothing, we're not really going to use this, to do anything crazy. But it's just like with the beer bug, with the lockdowns. They downplayed that. And a lot of people don't remember that because when our media and government was downplaying the beer bug, they probably weren't even aware that that was an issue yet. Me, I was well aware that that stuff was happening for like over a year before we were actually on lockdown here in America, going through the thick of it, right? So I was watching as we downplayed it. We kept allowing flights to come in from China and stuff like that, right? In the initial days of the beer bug, they downplayed it until they decided, hey, we're going to pretend to take this very seriously. We're going to issue a lot of these stupid restrictions on your life. We're going to try to basically take control over you, force you to do this, force you to do that, right? They decided, hey, after downplaying the beer bug, that they were going to turn it into a big social experiment that most people still have not recovered from. Also, we did lose a lot of people for reasons that I don't really want to get into right now because I want to stay on YouTube. But you know why those people were going, right? You know what was happening. But anyway, so here we have another situation where I don't even want to say it's the early days because I was aware of this issue 9 months ago, but now they're pretending like, okay, the issue just came about. Now they're issuing a state of emergency while also telling people, hey, no problem, nothing to see here. But if there's nothing to see here, why the state of emergency? It makes you question, it makes you wonder. But it's like I just said, they will tell you it's not a threat. They will tell you it's nothing to worry about until they decide one day to wake up and tell you otherwise. And that day may come. It may not, hopefully not, but it can come. And we've seen that before. They will literally change their tune, change their entire narrative over freaking night. So don't get comfortable right now. Because the state of emergency, that should have already rung your alarm, right? I don't care if they come on the news and tell you, listen, folks, everything's okay. I don't give a damn about that. Because they were saying the same things, a couple of months before they were forcing everyone to get certain jabs or what have you. If they wanted to keep a job or if they wanted to go shop at this store, they had to have, you know what I mean? It's a very slippery slope and you got to be very, very careful here. Because just because they say one thing one day doesn't mean they're going to say the same thing the next day. They will flip on you in a heart freaking beat. But right now, it's just California that has the state of emergency. There's warnings throughout Texas and other areas. I don't think this is a fake issue. I'm sure it's a real issue, but it's an issue that's been festering for a while, and I guess I would question, why now? Why now is there a state of emergency? What developments have there been in this story? And why wasn't a state of emergency called to begin with that could have maybe nipped this problem in the bud? Why did you wait all the way until, almost January? Or why did you almost wait until a new year, right when a new president is about to take over for you all to declare a state of emergency now? I don't know. Very shady if you ask me. But you let me know what you think down below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.